My name is Evelyn. I'm 62 years old, and I wasn't invited to my only son's wedding. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't because they forgot. It was deliberate. The words she used still sting. Evelyn, we just want a small private ceremony. It's not personal. But it was. Of course it was. Michael had always been my boy. I raised him on my own after his father walked out when he was just 6. I worked double shifts, cleaned offices at night, skipped meals so he could eat. We were never rich, but we had each other. And now, he was marrying someone who looked me in the eye and said, "You're not invited." I didn't cry, not in front of her. But that night, sitting on the edge of my bed, holding the little wooden box where I kept his baby shoes and his first school photo, I broke. It wasn't about a dress or a fancy meal. It was about being pushed out of his life. I prayed like I hadn't in years. Lord, if there's any reason to hold on, show me. Show me I'm still part of his life. The next morning, I woke up with an ache in my chest, but also something else. A fire. If she didn't want me there, fine. But I wasn't going to disappear, especially not now. I still remember the first time I met her, Rachel. She walked into my house with polished nails, designer sunglasses perched on her head, and that air of quiet judgment, the kind that doesn't need words, just a look. Michael looked smitten, of course. He always had a soft spot for charm. I served tea in my best porcelain. She didn't drink it. "I'm more of a matcha girl," she said, flashing a smile that never quite reached her eyes. I noticed the way she glanced around my modest kitchen, how her fingers traced the edge of the chipped countertop. She came from money. Investment family, I think. Her father owned something in finance, a bank, a fund. I didn't keep track. And I'd been a cleaner, a school cafeteria helper, a woman who knew how to stretch $10 across a week. Rachel wasn't rude, but she made it clear. Michael had moved up, and I wasn't part of that new world. Still, I tried. I baked her favorite lemon tart from scratch. I complimented her silk blouses. I even offered to help with wedding arrangements. She thanked me politely and then planned everything without me. That's when I started noticing the little things. Michael stopped calling as often. He talked in vague tones. "We're busy," he'd say. "A lot going on with the venue, the investments, the honeymoon." And then, one day, the phone rang. Rachel, not him. "We've decided on a destination wedding, just a few people. It's nothing personal." Nothing personal. It was the first time I ever truly felt poor. Not in money, but in presence, in place. After that call, I didn't hear from Michael for weeks. No updates, no invitations, not even a picture of the venue. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I walked into the bank and asked for a loan. It wasn't much, just enough to buy a dress, a plane ticket, and a small hotel room in the city where they were getting married. I had no plan to crash the ceremony, but I needed to be close. I needed to see it with my own eyes. "You sure about this?" asked the bank manager, a kind man who'd once gone to school with Michael. "I'm not sure about anything anymore," I said. But a mother doesn't stop being a mother just because someone told her she's not invited. The weekend of the wedding, I sat alone in a hotel room just a few blocks from the venue. I stared at the cathedral from the window, clutching the Bible my mother gave me before she passed. There was a knock at the door. It was Sarah, my niece. She'd been invited. "They said you weren't coming," she whispered, stepping inside. "Rachel told everyone you were sick. Or not interested." I felt the blood drain from my face. Not interested. I looked out at the city again. The noise of traffic, the laughter from the nearby plaza, the soft bells of the cathedral. Then I stood up. I won't ruin anything, I said, but I'm not hiding either. Sarah grabbed my hand. You shouldn't. You deserve to be seen. We stood across the street from the cathedral. From a distance, I could see the guests arriving in the black cars, their clothes elegant, their smiles wide. It was a beautiful day. Blue skies, warm sun, just enough breeze to lift the veil of the bride who didn't want me there. My son stepped out of one of the cars, Michael. He looked older, more polished, hair slicked back like his father used to do. But he also looked nervous, eyes darting, jaw clenched. And then he saw me, just for a second. His eyes met mine across the street. He froze. But then Rachel tugged his arm and whispered something. He turned away. It was a quiet kind of pain, like being erased. I didn't cry. Instead, I whispered, Lord, you said the stone the builders rejected became the cornerstone. Sarah squeezed my hand. What now? I shook my head. Now we wait. Back at the hotel, I turned off my phone. Hours passed. No message, no knock. But then, just before midnight, someone pounded on the door. It was Michael. His tie was undone, his eyes red. Why did you come? He asked. Because I needed to remember who I am, I said. And I wanted you to remember too. He walked in without asking. She said, You'd embarrass us, he mumbled. That you'd bring drama. That you'd talk about God and hard times and things that didn't matter anymore. I looked at him. They do matter. Or have you forgotten what made you? His lip quivered. Then he sat down and cried. I didn't say anything at the wedding, Michael murmured. But when I saw you across the street, I couldn't breathe. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like it held the answers. She told me I had to choose, he finally said, between the future I was building with her and the past I came from. I sat beside him, the silence between us thick and old. She made me feel ashamed, he whispered. Ashamed of how I grew up, of the nights you worked double shifts, of our tiny apartment, of our meals from coupons and leftovers. He looked up, tears finally falling. I never was ashamed of you, Mom, but she convinced me that to belong to her world, I had to erase ours. I reached for his hand. You can build a new life, I said softly, but you don't have to burn the old one down to do it. He took a shaky breath. I told her I needed time, that I was coming to see you. She wasn't happy. No, I replied. She wouldn't be. Then I stood. I raised you with nothing but faith, love, and two hands that never stopped working. If that's not enough for her, maybe she's not the one. He looked at me, stunned. I nodded slowly. A wife builds a home, but a mother, she built the foundation. That was the moment, not when he cried, not even when he came to see me, but when he realized that walking away from his roots was never going to make him richer. It would only make him lost. Michael stayed the night. We didn't talk much after that, just sat, ate toast, drank tea from the same chipped mugs Rachel never liked. By morning, his phone was full of messages, missed calls, Rachel's name over and over. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at me. What if I made a mistake? He asked. I shook my head. Then fix it. Or live with it. But don't pretend it didn't happen. He nodded slowly. That afternoon, he went back to their hotel, said he needed to talk. I didn't ask for details, but 2 days later, he came back with his suitcase. She said I was weak, he muttered, for running to you. Said I was choosing poverty and guilt over success. I said nothing. He looked at me again. Was I wrong? No, I replied. You were finally right. That week, he stayed with me, helped in the garden, fixed the old faucet, sat beside me in church for the first time in years. People stared. Whispers floated through the pews. But when Pastor read from Luke, "For what is a man profited if he gains the whole world and loses himself?" Michael bowed his head and wept again. Something was changing, not just in him, in me too. Because I realized I had spent so long praying for him to come back. I hadn't prepared for what would happen when he did. Michael started looking for work in the city again. He turned down offers from Rachel's family connections, said he wanted to earn things on his own this time. He even cut up his platinum credit card one afternoon, right there in my kitchen. I lived off borrowed image for too long, he said. It's time I face my own debts. We laughed, then cried. One morning, he surprised me with breakfast, pancakes and overcooked eggs. I never knew how hard you worked until I tried to make 3 things at once, he joked. I smiled, but inside, something quiet bloomed, a kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. Then came the call. Rachel had filed for annulment. She claimed emotional abandonment. Michael looked at the paper in silence for a long time. Then he signed. He didn't chase her, didn't argue. She never wanted a husband, he said. She wanted a symbol, a trophy. That weekend, he asked to visit the cemetery, his father's grave. We hadn't been there together in decades. He stood silently, hand on the headstone. I used to blame him, he said. But now I understand. Fear can make a man walk away. Pride can keep him gone. He turned to me, but love brings us back. That evening, he picked up the Bible on my nightstand. Can we read something together? I opened to Proverbs. Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues without right. He nodded. That night, he slept peacefully for the first time since the wedding, and so did I. A few weeks passed. Michael found part-time work managing a local hardware store. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest, and he seemed lighter. He started helping the pastor with community outreach, fixing broken chairs, painting old walls, showing up early, staying late. One evening, after Bible study, an elderly woman approached him. "You look familiar," she said. Michael smiled politely. I used to be someone else. Word started spreading that the banker's son had come back home, that the boy who once flew first class now rode the bus to work. But instead of mockery, something strange happened. Respect. People nodded to him in the market. A young couple asked for advice on starting a family. Even the bank manager who gave me that small loan stopped by our house with fresh bread and said, "You've got a fine man there." I watched it all unfold, quietly, gratefully, but deep down, I sensed the story wasn't over. One Saturday, I found a letter on the porch. No return address. Inside was a single page, Rachel's handwriting. "I made mistakes, but so did you. He deserves a future, Evelyn, not just a past." No apology, no warmth, but something in those words chilled me. I didn't tell Michael right away. Instead, I prayed. Lord, don't let bitterness write the final page, but don't let deception take over the story either. That night, he found the letter on the table. He read it in silence, then set it down. "I won't go back," he said, "but I'll forgive her." "And yourself?" I asked. He looked at me. "I'm working on it." The church was packed that Sunday. Michael had been invited to give a short testimony. just 5 minutes, to share his journey. He stood at the front in a simple button up shirt, no tie, no suit, just him. I sat in the back pew, holding my breath. I used to think wealth meant comfort, he began. Success meant being seen, and love. Well, I thought it came in the form of luxury. He paused. I was wrong. A few murmurs echoed. I turned my back on the woman who raised me, the God who sustained me, and the truth that lived deep inside me. And it cost me. He looked out over the crowd. But Grace doesn't keep score. Grace says, "Come back, start again." I felt tears fill my eyes. He looked at me, just for a second. My mother never stopped believing in me, even when I gave her every reason to. She taught me that money may build towers, but only love builds a home. The room was silent. Then a voice from the back whispered, "Amen." It spread, soft, powerful, like wind stirring dry leaves. Later, after the service, people hugged him, thanked him. One older man shook his hand and said, "You reminded me of my own son. I think I need to call him." I stood nearby, unnoticed, and that was okay, because I saw what God can do when pride is shattered and hearts are opened. As we walked home, Michael took my arm. "I've been thinking," he said. "I want to start something small, counseling, for men like me, sons who lost their way." I nodded. "And mothers who never gave up."